GNT show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discussion is advice. Live long and prosper.
Are friends with benefits?
Speaking of having a good time, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Dayton broke the G&T show. This is now the David Mack
Appreciation Hour.
What is it about this guy that people love him so much?
With his purple velvet cape and his crown. I thought it was a little much when he had us carry him in the studio on a throne. I am awesome! Look what I have done! Look what I have brought upon the world!
There is an urge to go nya.
I heard rumors that you might be working on something else, but we won't prod much. I'm going to say it.
I'm going to pry a little.
Dare you! How dare you ask me to change it? Do you not understand the majesty of my genius? And the guy sitting next to me looked at me like he was, like I'd crapped in his hat.
Yeah, it's the professionalism that sells the show. That's right.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Mike Ceridium with the GNT Show for another supplemental log. Joining me today is Steve.
Hello.
And this time we are pleased to sit down with Mike. He is the media relations guru for Shoreleave.
Hello, everyone.
Convention, yes. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, doing great. I'm so very, very happy and honored to be on the GNT show today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for taking the time to join us. Shoreleave is a fan-run, it's the oldest fan-run convention in the country. Is that correct?
Yes, we like to bill ourselves as the oldest fan-run, fan-produced convention on the entire East Coast. Now, I can't swear to that, but that's basically how we feel. We've been around for 37 years now, and while many other wonderful conventions, well-known nationally and internationally, have folded up their tents due to a series of economic and social factors done through these last several years, Shoreleave somehow is hanging on. So I guess we're doing something right. I've had the good fortune to be in their publicity department for a good number of years now, doing the best I can to spread the word out to all those in the fandom community about what Shoreleave has to offer.
Right on. So how did Shoreleave get started? How did it come together to start doing their convention?
Well, I wasn't there at the very beginning. My first Shoreleave was Shoreleave number 8. I joined the club that puts it on, the Star Trek Association of Towson, is the organization that puts it on. I joined that club around Shoreleave 14 or 15, give or take, and I joined the committee about 5 or 6 years after that. But in talking to people who were there at the very beginning or very close to it, what I've always been led to believe is that in 1979 there was already a Star Trek organization existing in Towson, okay? And a lot of them were in the high school and college age range at the time. And one time they got together and noticed that there were a very large number of very popular, extremely well-attended Star Trek conventions popping up all over the country, most noticeably up in New York City, at what were called the committee conventions at the time, starting somewhere around 1971, 72, somewhere in there. And these were all extremely well-attended, and to this day, things that happen there are pretty legendary. So we figured, well, why can't we do something small-scale on our own, down in our own neck of the woods? There are certainly more than enough local Star Trek fans to warrant such a thing. The idea is to get the money together and decide to do this. So what happened was, in July of 1979, this small group of young enthusiasts decided to put together an event called Shoreleave, which was, of course, based on the first season Star Trek episode of the same name, where I'm sure you already know, it's the one where they all beamed out to the planet, where anything you can think of, anything you can imagine, whether for good or for bad, is instantly created into reality. And you you have to deal with it.
We are
Mr.
familiar with the episode.
Right,
and
you know
in fact,
it very well. So we have some classic fans out there.
Yes.
Good. I'm very glad to hear it, because even though I have the deepest respect for current science fiction and genre and everything, in my heart of hearts, I'm a classic Trek fan. That is what got me into this, and that's the love I maintain that keeps my enthusiasm up for all these years. And I keep thinking about what Mr. Spock said in that episode, because people oftentimes ask me, why the name Shoreleave? How do you describe Shoreleave? And then I tell them, think about what Mr. Spock said towards the end of that episode. This is kind of like an amusement park. And I don't know if it was the captain or the young yeoman who said, amusement park, what's that? And he said, a place where people could go and see all sorts of fascinating things. And that's how I describe Shoreleave. And so we had that first thing. It was a one-day event. From the people I've talked to who have been there, it took place at the third floor of the University Union Building, what was then called Towson State University. It's just Towson University now. As a matter of fact, many years later, that particular college would become my alma mater. And what I oftentimes consider the greatest leap of faith wasn't necessarily holding that first convention. It was them getting together afterwards and saying, this did so well, and we've made so many great friends. Let's really pull our resources together. Let's rent a major hotel in the area and see if we can turn this into a 3-day event instead of just one, all right?
Wow.
And so they took that leap of faith, and I'm sure it wasn't just their money. I'm sure they borrowed a lot of money from their parents at the time, because you remember what I told you about their approximate age at the time. And I'm sure they borrowed a lot of family funds, and they decided to create Shoreleave 2 for 1980. And ever since then, like I said before, we have managed to survive for every year, with the exception of that first one and Shoreleave 8 back in 1986. We have always been at the same hotel, the Hunt Valley Inn. It's not a Marriott anymore; it's a Wyndham now, by the way. But so for 35 of those 37 years, every summer we reconvene at that hotel for a 3-day party. The way I like to describe it is just a 3-day party with a couple thousand of your closest friends you might not have known you had.
Right on.
And that's generally how it started, and it has grown ever since then. And it's something that we're very, very proud of, and we put a lot of ourselves and a lot of our passion into it, because remember, like you said before, we are volunteers that pull this thing. We don't get paid a single dime for it. Any kind of profit that gets made to the bottom line just goes right into next year's convention. All right, we do it because we love Star Trek, we love science fiction, we love fantasy, and we love fandom. We love the people that we've met down through the years and the friendships it's afforded us by doing this for so many years. And we'd like to think that effort, that feeling shows in the way the convention is, what it has to offer people.
Right on. When you had mentioned that where the inspiration for your name came from, I wanted to take a moment just to mention that when we do our convention coverage, we use as our introduction theme song, so to speak, we do use 5-Year Mission's Shoreleave for our convention coverage. So just a fun tidbit.
So this should be real natural for you.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about this year's event. Who are some of your guests? What kind of events are you planning to host? And
well, let's see here. How much time do you have? Let's see here. Well, one of the things we're very proud of with Shoreleave is that we may not be the biggest convention you've ever heard of. Far from it. We realize that we cannot possibly compete with these large national and regional conventions that happen the same time of year. We understand that. We have the deepest respect for what they do and the resources they have and the guests we're able to sign. But bear in mind that we're just not in that same league. We don't really do conventions like that because we like having a situation, well, I know it's an old hackneyed phrase, but let's just say it like the best of both worlds. Whoever heard that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we like to have a convention that's big enough where you can feel a buzz out of the audience, where you can feel and feed off of the energy of the audience, okay, as it builds. On the other hand, we don't want the convention to ever become such a mob scene that you take away the human person-to-person element away from it, okay? We like the fact that we are big enough to have a crowd, but we're small enough where if you see a friend that you haven't seen for years, or if you want to talk to a writer and get their autograph, if you want to talk to an artist and learn about what they do, if you want to talk to a scientist and learn about how you can get into that and learn about the natural world around you and everything, or just talk to a friend or just talk to somebody in the hallways or whatever, you can find a spot somewhere and do it, okay? The Hunt Valley Inn, due to its fire regulations, can only take 1,500 people at a time, you see. So that's big enough to have a group, but not so big that becomes a cattle call, all right? So that's something we're very proud of. Now, for that size convention, we're very, very glad that we're able to give people a lot of choices in the things they can do. And in your experience in covering so many events like this, I'm sure you know the different people come to conventions for different things. Some folks just want to go and they want to get in those autograph lines and they want to get every autograph. They want to get all the photo ops. They want to shake hands. They want to meet all the celebrities that they can. Other folks don't care much for that. Some folks, they're into the gaming aspect. They're going to be in that gaming room all weekend long with barely 5 minutes to sleep. And some people do that. And I say more power to them. You know what I mean? You know, so there you go. That's what some people do. Other folks, well, one of the strongest things that I'm very passionate about is the fan panel discussions, because I'm sure you're already able to tell that I'm more talkative than most and more opinionated than most. So I'm out there, and I love getting in groups of people who love a lot of the same things, and we have these intense, passionate discussions about movies and TV shows and comic books and what's in development, and, oh, that movie was great. Oh, that movie sucked. You don't know what you're talking about. But it's always nice, too. It doesn't get violent, at least not that I've seen. We've been lucky so far. But the fans, of course, are very passionate about it. And I love that free exchange of ideas. You know, I love that part of it, too. You've got fan films showing constantly. You've got the art show going most of the weekend. You've got a big dance. We call it 10 Forward on Saturday night, named after the front of the Enterprise D and everything. You've got our huge costume contest on Saturday night. We call it the Masquerade. In many ways, it's our tentpole event, because some of the things I'm mentioning to you are fairly recent, and many go back to the very beginning of the convention, ever since we went, to a full 3-day format. Our attendees, many of which have been coming for years and years and have had, marriages and kids and careers and all that, have seen them through all these years, they've come to expect that, you see. So these are just some of the things that people have choices of. I like to tell folks that for folks who are coming to Shoreleave for the first time or are not very familiar with how a fan-run convention works, you've got to get your registration in, find yourself a corner with a pen, pull out your pocket program schedule, start circling everything that you like, and you're going to very quickly realize that you're going to wish that you could clone yourself 3 or 4 times, because you literally will want to split yourself into 3 or 4 spots, because there is just so much going on at any one time, especially on Saturday, where there might be 10, 12, 14 tracks happening at the same time. For a little convention, that ain't too shabby. You are going to have to make some hard choices about what you want to do. So, yeah, we are small compared to those other guys, but we give folks a lot of choices, I like to tell folks that if you come to a Shoreleave and you can't find anything that you like to do, there must be something wrong with you, because there's plenty out there to choose from. You can make it loud, you can party, you can be quiet, you can hang with friends, you can stay in the hotel the whole weekend, you can go, other parts of town and sightsee and come back. People do all kinds of different things. Now, as far as the guest stars this year, and let's face it, that's what, draws a lot of folks who are on the fence, who aren't too familiar with, being long-time convention attendees. That's what draws their attention. So this year, we have a very eclectic mix, a very diverse mix of guest stars, not necessarily Star Trek oriented, that there are elements of that, but it's a very, very eclectic mix of guest stars who have been in all kinds of different science fiction TV series and movies. So I'm sure these guests will have no trouble fielding different kinds of questions from different kinds of fans about what they're doing now and the experiences and acting that they've had. Now, the number one guest, the guest that's getting the most buzz in fandom ever since we announced it, in fact, this created a huge splash on the internet with the our Twitter feed and our Facebook page and everything, is a gentleman by the name of John Barrowman. Okay?
Yes.
That's drawing a lot of attention, especially the Doctor Who fans out there.
Yes. Our co-host, Nick, he went on a rampage when he found out that he was going to be there and could not attend. He was so upset. But yeah, that he's been wanting to meet Mr. Barrowman for quite a while. So congratulations for getting him. That is
Thank you. It's
wonderful.
It's quite a feather in our cap. I have to give all the credit, not to go too much off subject, but I have to give a lot of credit and a big shout out to our guest relations team, to our con chairs, and my colleagues, because I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. I'm just a publicity dude, okay? And I have to give them a lot of credit for not just this year, but the last several years, finding names a lot bigger than one would expect that we would be able to get at a small fan-run, convention such as ours. Last year, it was a very big emotional thing for me, but last year we had Leonard Nimoy appear by Skype on the Sunday of our convention. Now, we knew he was ill, we knew of the COPD, we knew he was frail, we knew he couldn't travel, but I don't think any of us really expected for us to lose him so soon after that. So the fact that we were able to see him on the screen and interact with him, and I had seen him in person years ago, but I had never seen him so relaxed and so at ease with himself and so grateful to the fans. So the fact that I was able to do that last year before he passed is always going to be a very cherished memory. But we had Leonard Nimoy's appearance last year. The year before that, we had William Shatner. We had him for one day. It was only a one-day deal. I still don't know how they did this, but they managed to get him to our convention for one afternoon. He gave a talk, he signed some autographs, and then he had to go fly somewhere else. But I think he went to a crab house down at the Inner Harbor, to have a meal with his family, and then he left. But that was a huge feather in our cap. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've had names like LeVar Burton. We've had Brent Spiner. We've had Kate Mulgrew. Just last year, we had Richard Dean Anderson. Now, that was the guy that we worked for years to get this guy, and it was a dream come true for a lot of fans out there to get Richard Dean Anderson to come.
Right on.
So, of course, the problem is when you get names like that, there's that pressure every year to keep repeating it, to come up with something big every year. And sometimes you can come to that expectation, and sometimes you can't. But every year we've been so lucky. Now, maybe, holding back just a teeny bit this year, I know that's not really the case, but I know that next July, when the 50th anniversary convention, not our 50th, but Star Trek's 50th, next July, that's going to be, I just know, I'm already, not that I'm not looking forward to this year's, of course I am, but I'm already thinking ahead to next year's convention, because I'm wondering what are we going to possibly be able to do to top what we've done in the last 5-6 years within the resources and the size of the hotel that we have. It's going to be a tremendous challenge. But since most of my fellow committee members have been doing this for years and years and years and years, okay, that if they can find a way to make it bigger and better, they will. Now, to go back to the subject that you asked me about, among the other guests that we have this year, for those out there who really like the current hit sci-fi show Defiance, we have 3 guest stars from that show, which, by the way, I just heard had its premiere just in the last couple of days. The new season just premiered.
Yes.
We have Jamie Murray, we have Tony Curran, and we have Jesse Rath. Now, on my listing here, Jamie, besides being in Defiance, has also been seen in such shows as Warehouse 13, Dexter. Let's see here. Tony Curran has also been in Doctor Who, another Doctor Who alum, Sons of Anarchy, LXG. Jesse Rath has also been in Being Human. I've heard amazing things about that show, Being Human, another one of those BBC America imports and everything. 18 to Life, and Aaron Stone. So we're going to have 3 guests from Defiance that will probably talk a great deal about that show, perhaps in a group. And also, folks will be able to ask them about their other shows, because these are the kind of actors who are character actors in the genre who have had multiple experiences in these kind of shows. So they'll be able to relate to the fans in all kinds of different ways. Among our other guests, in fact, a very recent addition, just in the last month, She's been added, and I hope I don't get her name wrong. The name Rekha Sharma, Rekha, a very lovely actress. Known
She's
for
been
her roles
in a lot of things.
Battlestar Galactica, The 100, Smallville, and V. So Rekha Sharma's just been added. And let's see, we have Aaron Ashmore, very popular young actor from shows like Warehouse 13, Smallville, Lost Girl, Killjoy. His brother Sean was going to come as well, but he got an acting commitment, and sometimes these things can't be helped. This is part and parcel of being in a convention, and if you get a job as an actor, you're going to take that job.
Exactly. We do not begrudge them for getting work.
Of course. I mean, sometimes it hurts and everything, but these things have been known to happen. That's what happens to conventions, you know. They get an acting job, and that's just how it goes. But Aaron is still with us. We also have David Nickel. Nykl. I hear he's quite a trip and very, very popular with the fans. Everything I heard has been extremely positive about the man. He's been in shows like Stargate Atlantis and, again, Arrow. So we have two guys who have been in Arrow. And to round out our main guest list, who was a guest many, many years ago when Next Gen was first on the air, and I'm very happy that he'll be representing the Star Trek end of things at Shoreleave this year, a respected character actor by the name of Daniel Davis, who's mainly known to Trek Fen as Moriarty in several episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation back in the day. And if your tastes run more along the comedy route, he, of course, was the butler to Fran Drescher's Nanny back in the day.
Yes.
Not exactly the same kind of show, but those are the two kind of shows that he's best known to American audiences for. And he's done tons and tons of very well-regarded stage work. We also have a well-regarded artist guest of honor. I believe his name is Mike McPhail. He does he's an author and a great graphic artist who does the Defending the Future series. So he'll be joining us. And along with that, and again, we don't have time to go through the entire list, but Shoreleave also is known for bringing in a lot of science fiction writers. Lots of them. That started years ago. I can't even begin to tell you how it even began, but over the course of years, I don't know how old you are, but there used to be a commercial, might have been a Head and Shoulders commercial, maybe, and they said, and they told two friends, and they told two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so every year, more and more writers want to come to Shoreleave, to the point where I think there's more writers than there are attendees in this hotel. But it certainly gives us a lot of opportunities to mix a bunch of them together and have great panel discussions, and folks who want to come out and hear readings or buy a book or two, get a couple of the authors to sign their books and everything, or if they were thinking about writing themselves and getting into that business, how to develop a story, how to sell it, how to get an agent. There are oftentimes workshops with several of these writers who are willing to tell people about their experiences in the writing business and how they can get into it themselves. And we also have artists who sell their wares in our art show. And we also have a lot of scientists. One thing about our particular group, in this particular region of the country, someone I'm very proud of, we not only love our science fiction and our fantasy, we also, a great many of them, really love their science fact, too. They want to know about the latest discoveries out there in the universe, the things that have been seen by the Hubble Space Telescope and the new telescopes that are being developed and everything. And so we have these other scientists who come from organizations like the Hubble Institute in the inner city or the Goddard Space Flight Center down there by D.C. They come out and they give talks. So there's all kinds of guests. There aren't just, media actor guests and everything, but it's a long and varied list, and it's sometimes very hard to keep track of them all. But it's, we're very proud that we're able to bring in, names from such well-regarded shows and folks who were able to sit there at their tables and meet guests and talk for a few minutes, sign autographs, get maybe a photo op with them and everything, and just relate to them as people and not these folks who are so far above us common folks and everything, And again, that's another benefit of having a small gathering like this that you can't always get with a bigger convention because there's just so many people, you can't really have that reaction. The attendance doesn't allow for it. But with us, we're able to do that. And again, it adds to the overall experience. So in a rather roundabout way, I think that was the answer to the question you gave me.
Yes, the authors are one of is one of the things that really drew us to Shoreleave. We've spoken with many of them before in various interviews, and all of them at one time or another said that they have made, will make, or will be present at the next or at a Shoreleave convention. So just through meeting them and talking with them, we have really come to know what you guys offer, and it's been fantastic. And the fact that there's such an emphasis on the writers is fantastic. I mean, there aren't most of the larger conventions, they're so focused on the celebrity guests, they don't,
and we
they
have
ignore
that element. I mean, to be sure.
Yes.
I mean, to be honest, there are other conventions who come to Baltimore that are strictly literary, like BaltiCon, for example, and they are much older than we are, and we have the deepest respect for them. They've been around forever, and they really know what they're doing. But they are a literary convention, and WorldCon, for that matter, very heavy emphasis, at least as years ago anyway, from what I remember, very heavy literary emphasis. I don't think this was ever really made out to be this way. It just kind of became part and parcel of the Shoreleave package over the course of many years. I don't think there was any kind of deep laid plan to make us more of a literary bent. It just sort of happened. We try to give a little something for everybody, guest-wise, not just in our programming, but in the kind of guests we bring. But yeah, in the very beginning, around Shoreleave 2, or perhaps it was Shoreleave 3, long before I ever even went to my first Shoreleave, we had our first couple of writer guests. Now, that first Shoreleave back in 1979, I can't recall the names right now, but there were a couple of zine writers. You know what zines are?
Yes.
That's right. I knew how old you were, I guess. But this goes back a little bit before there was so much official Trek publication. Some of your younger listeners on the podcast may not know what the zines are. You may want at some point give them a primer or something and say, what is he talking about?
We have discussed them. They're almost like newsletter type of, almost magazines in the early days of some of these science fiction franchises. That kind of like almost like community newsletters or fan clubs.
Right. And some were PG rated, some were more intense than that. Let's just say that.
Yes.
There's all types of writing for all kinds of tastes. But you can get anything, any kind of taste, everything across the board. And that's part of the joy of it, because there's so many varieties. Because let's face it, down through the last 50-year history of Star Trek, whenever the powers that be, as we like to call them, have denied us our Trek fix, what have fans always done? They've made their own. This is nothing new. This goes back to the very beginning of fandom. We simply make our own. And then you had zines. So the first Shoreleave, we had one or two of the zine writers there. Then for Shoreleave 2 and 3, a couple of our dear friends who, by the way, with nary a miss, maybe like one or two at most for each one over the last 35 years, two authors joined us. One named Howard Weinstein and one named Robert Greenberger. They joined us basically at the very beginning, and they very quickly became members of the family. Unless there was some dire family emergency or something, they were always there for us. And I guess over the course of time, like I said before, they told folks what a wonderful time it was. There was a great 3-day party that you could also, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you could sell books there. You could meet new friends. You could network with your colleagues. You could tell people, what you were doing. You could, get people to look forward to your books. You can do readings. If you can find programming space, you could do readings and all that. So there you go. And it just kind of grew from there, and that's how it happened. It started with a couple of close, loyal folks who decided to take us up on it, these crazy young kids take us up on our offer, and it grew from there 30-some years ago. And now we've got so many, we have a hard time fitting them on a flyer,
That's awesome.
It's hard to keep track of.
That is awesome.
But now it's just one piece of the Shoreleave puzzle. For those who are heavily into that part of it, you could easily spend your weekend just hanging out with the writers, if that's your cup of Earl Grey.
Very cool. Yeah, that is totally fantastic, and it's something that we really push and talk about it on our show, because story and character and which affects all types of media, all types of genre. It really begins with the writer, and that's where our focus comes into play.
Well, if it's not on the page, then it's not going to be
True.
on the stage. I mean, you got to have that first, before you really have any kind of a finished product, and they
True.
don't really get the respect they deserve. But hey, any of them will be happy to tell you that story. So, but yeah, we owe them a great deal, both professionally and personally, for what they bring to the convention and to fandom in general, to keep this Star Trek wagon train going on and on year after year.
Yep.
And yes, they are definitely a big part of what we do. Certainly not the only part, but a very important part.
Shoreleave also supports a number of charities with their efforts. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Well, let's see. I don't have all my notes directly in front of me right now. However, as far as this year's official ones that we are supporting, there are certain charitable groups that we have supported for many, many years that we've been doing for a great number of years. For example, we always, for many years, have been taking collections for the Maryland Food Bank, both in terms of non-perishable food and cash, all right? For many, many years, we've had a Red Cross blood drive. Usually it's the entire weekend. For this year, I think it's just Sunday based on the availability of the Bloodmobile, that big tank-like RV that they use. For their collections, it was only available on Sunday this year. So there's that as well. In the past, we have had various collections for like the Motion Picture Fund and everything. We have these auctions and everything to benefit that. But these last 2-3 years, we literally will vote ahead of time, and there's like maybe 3 or 4, specific ones besides the ones I've already mentioned. That when we have auction items, the money will go towards that. Okay, and
very cool.
I think the best way to find out the specifics of this year's charities, if you go on our official website, www.shore-leave.com, SHORE-LEAVE.com. On the left-hand side of the main page, there's all these links and everything, and there's going to be one for charities, and it will go into great detail what each one is. For example, in the last several years, there have been things like military working dogs and things like that, or we might be doing something this year for COPD, for example. Not 100% certain, but because of losing our dear friend Leonard Nimoy, there might be something there, whatever is, currently popular in the news and everything. But another thing that I've always been very proud of not just Shoreleave, but fandom in general, no matter how good or bad, seems like especially bad these last several years, but no matter how the economy is at any one year, our attendees are always extremely generous. They always have been. And I've noticed this pretty much at any convention I've been to, really. It must be something about the science fiction and fantasy fandom community where we tend to stick together, and we, really are generous with our time, with our caring, and with our finances as well. And, even some years where attendance was down, the economy was in really bad shape and everything, and yet with all that, and, dealers not really doing all that well and all that, the charity still did all right. And that tells me that the heart is in the right place. And so those charities still get supported and everything. And that is a great source of pride in our fellow fans, that no matter what, the charities still do well.
Right on. You had mentioned dealers. So obviously you're going to have, you guys also have your own little vendors room or dealers area where people can come get their favorite sci-fi, fantasy souvenirs.
To get their memorabilia on, eh?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm one to have known to drop a few dollars down through the years, fill up some credit cards, especially when I was single, I would sort of fill up a credit card and fill up one, move it over, get another credit card, before I had more bills to pay and a mortgage to take care of, Yes. But, we all went through that back in our day. But, I've been known to drop a few dollars in memorabilia on Star Trek down to the years. So that's one of my favorite hangouts. Even though I can just sometimes just sort of look at it and just kind of pine away. Oh, I wish I could have that. Oh, poor me, right? And I look at it in wonderment. Oh, I'd love to have that, you know? But, you can still look at it and then like it and everything, and you can hang out in there. But, yeah, not so little, and that's definitely a part of the convention experience. Actually, the Hunt Valley Inn, the Wyndham Hunt Valley Inn, basically Shoreleave takes over two full floors of this hotel. The lower level is where the main guest ballrooms are, and the registration and the food area, and you have the areas where the fan tables are, recruiting members and all, and around the corner you have parlors where there are discussions, and there's the art show and everything. But the upstairs, as you go in, are the other large ballrooms where the vendors are, your dealers areas, okay? And some dealers have been coming to us for many, many years, always want to be the same spot every year. They literally reserve it a year ahead of time for next year's show. And we also have some new ones, too. I think particularly this year, we do have some different dealers coming to us this year. So it's not all the same thing. It's not all pictures. It's not all comic books. It's not all books, There's a wide variety of different things for people to choose from, Some of it is reasonably inexpensive. Some of it is more high end, but generally it's for every kind of tapes, taste. There's, tapes, discs, what have you. But yeah, I would say a major part of the upper level of the hotel is filled with dealers. And again, that's just another element for those who spend a good part of their weekend in there. That's part of it too, having the dealers areas, and we will certainly be having that. Never you fear.
Right on. Steve, do you have any questions you'd like to chime in with?
I do.
Well, just trying to let folks know, for those of you who enjoy your show and everything, besides saying thank you for letting me join you on your show today, is for those of you who may not have been to Shoreleave before, or those who have never really been to a fan-run, all-volunteer convention before, who may have just gone to really big shows like the Creation Grand Slam or Comic-Con or Dragon Con or any of these large, admittedly wonderful conventions. I mean, they really know what they're doing. They put on an amazing show. But if you've never been to a smaller gathering like ours, if there's any way you can travel down to just north of Baltimore on the weekend of August, 7th through 9th this year, okay? Give us a try. You don't have to do all weekend. Try to maybe pick one day. Pick Saturday or pick Sunday. Get there early, though, because sometimes there's a line to get your memberships on the way in. You don't want to miss out on a lot of stuff. So get there early and give it a day. And I almost guarantee that you will find something that you're going to like. Or even if it's not necessarily programming that you like, you're going to find people that you like. Because in a group like this, you are going to find, sometimes by accident, like-minded people who like a lot of the same things you do. And what has happened a lot of times to a lot of fans I've known, including me, a lot of times the people that you live with or the people you work with don't necessarily get the whole science fiction universe. They ain't going to get it. You know what I mean, right? You can explain it to them, but they ain't going to get it. But there are others out there that you may not think. They're out there, all different types of tastes and varieties and backgrounds and everything. And that's part of the joys of fandom. And that in that way, and I don't want to pat, myself or the convention on our backs too much, but one of the joys of the world that Gene Roddenberry created for the original Star Trek was the idea that in this future, everybody gets along, okay? That you see past those slight differences, okay? In order to make a better world. It's that excitement of that difference that makes the world go around. And if human beings, in fact, I've listened to albums like Inside Star Trek and everything, and the making of Star Trek that came out years ago, he often said, Mr. Roddenberry did, when he would do these talks, of course, I never saw him, unfortunately, in person. I always wish I had, but he would always say when he would give talks in colleges that if we humans can't learn to take a positive delight in these little differences, then we don't deserve to go out in space and meet the real differences that most certainly are out there. And although nothing is ever perfect, humans are never going to be perfect. But it is a situation where you have this different group of people, and they have a different beliefs and different kinds of jobs and things like that, and they get along. And you have this setting, this cocoonish-like setting with this gathering of people where people are exchanging ideas and meeting new friends and learning new things and making, like I say, over the course of years, when you're young and you're just getting into conventions and all, a lot of times you are drawn by the guest stars and you want autographs and you want to buy things and you might want to go for the gaming or something like that, right? But as you get older, if you go to conventions for years, you find yourself more attracted by the people over the course of time, the friendships you make, the people that you meet, the things you can learn, you network with people, and that's one of the real joys of it. And so I tell folks out there that are either have said no in the past or just kind of on the fence, I say, give it a try. And if you want to learn more about the convention, the best thing to do is get on the website, the www.shoreleave.com that I mentioned before. We have a phone number for those who are interested in learning more by phone. 410-701-0669 is our info line. We're also on Facebook. We also have a Twitter feed. So anybody who wants to find out more about the convention, find out more from us there. We are accepting. We're not sold out yet. Tickets are selling well, but we're not totally sold out like that time we had William Shatner. We got, we got really crunched full there. But there are still spots available. Pre-registration closes July 15th. But as of right now, there still should be memberships available at the door. If any of you are out there and want to say hello to me, I'll be there most of the weekend. I'll probably have a exhausted but happy look on my face, wearing a committee badge. So you can certainly flag me down and say hello. And but I do hope to see many of your listeners out there come Shoreleave in the early part of August. Does anybody else there have any other questions for me for the time being? What's your name, Steve? Been kind of quiet Steve. In the background. Anybody have anything else for me?
I was just wondering, in recent years, your dates have clashed with some other bigger conventions. Has that proved problematic for you? Yeah. Has that proved problematic for you with getting bookings and guests and sort of attendees to come along?
Well, that's a very good point you brought up. I'm so glad you brought that up. Up until the last couple of days, I wouldn't be able to tell you much. But since we just had a posting on our website, I am now free to talk about it a little bit more, okay? We moved from our traditional weekend, the second weekend of July, which it was for more than 30 years, all right? We moved from that because we were going up against the San Diego Comic-Con. And we knew, as the biggest Comic-Con of all, that most of our writers and a lot of our guest stars and a good number of our attendees, too, would be going there instead. And we would probably hear the sound of crickets out in the audience if we tried to go up against that. So we moved to the nearest available spot that particular hotel, the Hunt Valley Inn, had the second weekend of August, okay? Now, we did that. And then something else happened. Creation Grand Slam set theirs up the same weekend. And, of course, since they are much bigger than us, and, like I say, I'm not trying to create any kind of rivalry or anything. We have the deepest respect for their shows and what they're able to accomplish and the attendance they're able to get. But let's face it, when you have a convention that can sign pretty much every Star Trek guest that's still alive, and you get 30, 40, 50,000 people and everything to come, and all the international press is hankering to be there, it does create, shall we say, certain difficulties for a small convention such as ours to compete on that basis. So, and again, this news has just come down in the last several days, as a matter of fact, but next year, to coincide with the 50th anniversary year of Star Trek, all right, we are moving back to mid-July. I think it's like, I don't know the precise dates. I think it's 1 week different than our traditional week, which was always 1 week after the 4th of July. It's 2 weeks after. It's like July 16,
July
18 or something.
To 17th.
Right. It's on the website. So we're already getting word out. Not that we're not excited about this year. Of course we are. But, yeah, most of the people I have talked to, not all, but most, are very excited about moving back very close to our old July dates. So we are, unless there's another move by somebody else, that we should not be in direct competition with these much, much larger international conventions in the other part of the country. So we are, believe me, very excited about the possibilities. One, about moving back, and also about what we may be able to accomplish for Shoreleave 38 next July. for the 50th anniversary. Plus, by then, hopefully, if they don't drag their feet anymore, we'll have a brand new Star Trek film to talk about for director Justin Lin that there's been so much talk about. And, of course, the new Star Wars movie comes out this November. So there will be much to discuss come next July. And already, I'm sure, the wheels are turning, to make next year's show especially wonderful. But for right now, we've got to put the final touches on this year's event.
Yes, and we are GNT Show for one is very excited about these current dates, because not only it means that not only our listeners will be able to attend, but we will be able to attend as well. And we've been missing it. We've had one of my co-hosts, Nick. He's gone every year for the past 5 or 6 years, and when it was conflicting with the Grand Slam, it was a shame because he couldn't make it. We already had our show. We covered the Grand Slam as our grand event of the year.
Right, can't really blame you. I mean, that is a huge event, and it's amazing what they do. But we feel a little bit sad that we moved to avoid one convention and now we're up against another one.
Yeah,
that's why this year, we've got quite an eclectic group, and we're very, very happy and proud to have them. But not too many Star Trek guests, because let's face it, they are probably with their friends and colleagues out there in Vegas. Then,
True, but you have a great group of people.
We sure do.
We are going to have a producer out there covering the Shoreleave.
I think you said
so we
Janice,
are very
right?
excited.
Janice
Her name is Janice. Yes. So we are excited that we will have a representative there to kind of check things out and be able to report back to us all the good stuff that's going on. So Nick, obviously, he said that he can't make it, and the rest of us are sad that we can't make it this year. But we are definitely looking forward to Shoreleave 38.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that you're able to, that Janice is able to arrange, with the kind help of our guest relations department, some wonderful interviews with not necessarily just actor guests, but since you have a very strong literary and storytelling and character bent there with your show, that you're able to talk with some of the wonderful writers that we have joining us this year, or at least some that you haven't spoken to, in prior times that you mentioned.
Yes,
I've
been communicating with them, and so far I'm really enjoying all the communication going on with your team. I mean, you guys seem very helpful, very knowledgeable, and I'm enjoying it. I made that comment the other day to my team, and I said, I like dealing with these people.
Well, thank you. We're not always the easiest folks to get along with all the time, because there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of pressure involved. But believe me, we do appreciate the kind words. I mean, with us being totally volunteer for this since the very beginning, the greatest satisfaction we get out of something like this, because we certainly don't do it for the money, is because of the friendships we've made through fandom, the people that we've met, and of course the kind words of attendees, guests down through the years who literally will plan their vacation and their time off around Shoreleave every year. And that's a tremendous joy and a tremendous responsibility that we take very, very seriously. But we do the best show we can, and we're going, as long as we can keep doing it, and as long as folks want us to do it, we'll find a way to do it. But for the time being, we have ourselves a convention, and as I'm saying this, just about 7 weeks away. It's creeping up on us, and it's an extremely exciting time of the year for all of us. But again, thank you so very much for your time today. It was a great pleasure being on your show. Thank you for joining us, and it's been very informative, learning a lot about Shoreleave, what you guys have to offer, where you guys came from, and here's hoping that you guys are around for a long time, because you guys are doing great work. Well, thank you so very much. That's very kind. Thank you. You're welcome. Have a nice day. This is Mike Ceridium once again for the GNT show. I'd like to thank Steve for joining me, as well as Mike Schilling, media relations guru for Shoreleave. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Always a pleasure. Are we off the air? I'm winding it down right now. Oh, okay. I only have one more thing to say. Kapla.
Music for the G&T show is provided by Warp 11, Andrew Allen, Grethor, and 5 Year Mission. This has been a Busy Little Beaver production.